watching AYV Television.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the debut episode of The Woman's Place. Our aim on this show is to increase the awareness of health conditions affecting women and girls in Sierra Leone. If we begin to openly communicate about these issues, dispel myths, and make these health conditions less of a part of our social and cultural taboo, the amount of women seeking care in our hospitals and in our clinics will increase. I am your host, Dr. Wori Sise, obstetrician gynecologist. As the weeks and the months go by, we look forward to hearing your views and suggestions on topics you would like for us to discuss. Kindly visit our Facebook page at The Woman's Place for weekly updates. On today's show, I have with me Dr. Olabisi Claudia Skol, family medicine specialist working at the West End Clinic, and Dr. Sarah Conte, medical superintendent at the King Hammond Road Hospital. Doctors, please say hello to our viewers.
Hello.
Okay. Tonight, we will be discussing adolescent health. An adolescent, according to WHO, is a person who is between the age of 10 and 19. And WHO also defines health as a state of complete mental, social, and physical well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Now, we can all agree that adolescence is a unique and formative time in which these people are no longer children, but they're not yet quite adults. So protecting them from adverse experiences enables them to thrive not only in adolescence, but also in adulthood. So today we will be dealing with the holistic picture of adolescent health. So let me start with you, Dr. Claudia Skol. So I've just mentioned that you're a family medicine specialist, and I'd like to know what conditions usually bring young girls and their parents to your facility.
Most of the usual conditions, because it's a family practice, so most of the different conditions that are, that can be seen. But to be more specific, we also have adolescents coming in for family planning services, also for termination of pregnancy when they require that, and also for antenatal clinic.
Okay.
We also provide antenatal services and delivery and, of course, postnatal services. And I also see, because it's a family practice,
right,
you also tend to have mothers who would bring their daughters to me, being a female doctor,
right,
to talk to them about issues that they're having at home.
Okay.
And also particularly behavioral issues.
Right.
To talk to them. And also to when there's been a sexual assault and they're not sure whether it has happened or not. I also, because of the work I do with the Rainbow Center, I also get a lot of adolescents being brought to me to have a look at them to confirm whether a sexual assault has taken place or not, and for treatment. So, basically for all medical conditions that as well.
Okay, thank you. We'll talk a bit about the Rainbow Center a bit later, but I also want to know, I'm sure with young girls, we talk about starting puberty. Do they come around when they've started puberty, or to talk about obesity, nutrition? Do you have those cases come into your clinic?
Not really,
okay,
as I say.
Or delayed puberty, especially. Say a young girl who has not had her menses by 16,
yes,
do they
yes,
come around
they
and talk
do,
to you?
We do. We do see them coming around with parents who, two things, they either start their periods too early,
okay,
because nowadays we see young girls starting their periods at age 8, 9. I've actually had one, young child that started at age 7. So I see them, because the parents, of course, are very concerned about that.
Of course.
And then, of course, delayed menses as well. You see them coming to find out the reasons why.
Right.
So definitely I do see the two range.
Yeah. I mean, I find that interesting because as a family medicine specialist, I'm thinking you're the first point of call before they go to like an obstetrician, for example.
Yes.
So you would be the one to, talk to them about nutrition, malnutrition or obesity, about, for example, heavy menses, especially as they start their menses is usually heavy. We've talked about STIs, if they're sexually active. Yeah. So like, when I was reading, I found out that the American College of Obstetrician and Gynecologists recommends that young girls are actually seen by the family physician or the OB between the ages of 13 and 15, not necessarily for any disease condition, but as a checkup. Is that a part of your practice? Do you see something like that?
No, we don't. In fact, for all medical conditions, I said we are the last option.
First.
the last option, because parents will tend to take them first to the nurse next door.
Oh yes, that's true.
And then when they don't have a solution, they will take them to the pharmacy.
Right.
And then if it concerns the sexual assault, they will take them either to the SOE or to the traditional birth attendant or to the midwife they know that's next door. And then when they really are not sure, they're still not satisfied, then they'll come to us. So we're the last option.
Okay, I understand that. But it's important that we note that regular hospital visits for adolescent girls is important. One, you want to introduce that young girl to the health facility, because lifelong, you want them to be seeking health care for their entire lifespan. So when you create that kind of positivity with regards to healthcare seeking, I think that's a good thing.
It is not in our culture.
That's true.
It's not something parents even think about.
Yeah.
And this is where raising an awareness of the importance. A program like this also is important to raise the awareness to parents of the importance of coming to see the doctor when their child is going through puberty.
Right.
Because there's so many changes that the child is going through, they may not understand. The child will not understand, So it is not definitely part of our practice. So it is something that the message needs to go out there to parents to know that it is important. But my other problem is now we're having kids. So they know better to know what the right thing is, the right thing to do. And a lot of parents who too are educated don't even realize that it is important unless they hit a crisis with that particular child.
Right.
And that's when they think, I think we need to go to the hospital. Yeah.
That's true. But I hope that we start inculcating that kind of culture where young girls are taken to the hospital. It serves, as we've just discussed, a means of educating not only the young girl, but also the parents, so they understand the emotional changes that are going on within that adolescent, as we've already discussed. We talk about hygiene, menstrual health, all of those things.
And one thing you mentioned, as I think also is important, that I'm seeing now in a lot of, particularly the private schools, is obesity. And at that early age, you're seeing a lot of, you go to the primary schools and the private schools now, you're seeing a lot of obesity and obese children in the schools. And that has given me a lot of concern because it's the parents now have to realize that they have a big role to play in the future of that child. Right,
because obesity in adolescence or in childhood has far-reaching effects in adulthood. So that's something that has to be looked into.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Abisio, that's good. So let me give you some health indices. Now, I looked at the Demographic Health Survey 2013, and also WHO has some stats in 2016 about Sierra Leone. So we found out that 20% of female adolescents have had sex by the age of 15. Compared to the males, it's only 8%. So more female adolescent than male adolescents. And 80% of adolescents, again, between the ages of, adolescents are between the ages of 10 and 19, but 80% of these young people, young females, have had sex by the age of 20. So that's 8 out of every 10 adolescents have had sex by the time they get to the age of 20. Now, also, the adolescent birth rate for Sierra Leone is 125 per 1,000 live births. So for every 1,000 births that we have, 125 are from adolescent mothers. as compared to 68 in Ghana or 111 in Uganda, for example. Other indices that we found: 22.9% of female adolescents between the ages of 15 to 19 have been married before, and 12.5% of them were married before the age of 15. Now, mind you, this is a country where marriage before 18 is illegal. Right? And 38.9% have been married before 18 years. Next, 28% of 15 to 19-year-olds have had at least one child. As you're talking about babies giving birth to babies, right there. And adolescent girls contribute 46.8% to the complications that we see due to pregnancy and childbirth in Sierra Leone. So, what are your views? I mean, when you listen to all of these stats?
I mean, it's quite horrific when you listen to it. It's just an indication of the total breakdown in our social fabric.
Right.
Breakdown in our educational system, breakdown in the governance of the country, breakdown. I mean, you hear what's going on now. So when you look at it, economics is breaking down, parenting skills are breaking down. The economy in the country has a problem. Peer pressure, I mean, there are just so many factors that are related to this kind of statistics that needs to be addressed. I mean, from the home to the society at large, you know, everybody. And I think we all have a role to play here. The parents have a role, the government has a role, the community has a role. We all have a role to play in trying to bring down these statistics, because they're horrific. So imagine that, you know, a child would have had sex by the age of 15. And really and truly, when you look at, to bring you back to the sexual assault, when you look at the percentage of our survivors that are under the age of 18, these statistics are correct. Because it's mostly adolescents that have been sexually abused.
Yeah.
So definitely, and the stories we hear, most of the cases we see, a lot of them, some of them are the one-time sexual abuse, but a lot of them has been an ongoing abuse, where that incident has just led to the discovery of what was going on.
Yeah.
And you find that some of this sexual abuse has been going on for maybe a year, maybe 2 years. Some will tell you from when I was in class 1, when I was in class 2. So it's been going on for a while. So the morality, we've lost our way when it comes to our morals. We've lost our way, you know, in terms of the education. I mean, look at the kind of worms that has been opened up when it comes to the cheating. I mean, we've known about this for years, since when my son was going, you know, taking the MPSC, that this was going on. But it's just gone to a level now where it's, you know, unimaginable. So the whole social fabric of Sierra Leone has a problem. Parenting has a problem. The economy of the country, you know, I mean, we are supposed to be in the new direction, and we're looking towards the new direction, that things will change. And hopefully with the new direction, we'll be able to change some of these statistics.
I really do hope that we'll be able to change some of these statistics, because it's appalling. And as a female, when you imagine your life, for example, us here, and what you've been able to, you know, achieve, and then you look at, you know, girls in our country in this day and age. I mean, most of the stats, like I said, 2016, 2013, but still, if I hope to look and see what the new statistics will be. I hope there will be. You think there was?
I'm sure there was.
Okay.
Because, I mean, when you look at what the educational system was like maybe 2-3 years ago, I mean, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. You know, so I'm not.
Well, we look forward to seeing what the new statistics will be, and I think it's on, as you said, everybody has a role to play, and from the home, the parents, schools, communities, they all have roles to play when it comes to that. But you've already kind of stepped into the next question that I was going to ask. What challenges do you think young girls face in this country? I mean, I know there are many. You've already started when you're talking about, abuse, for example, within the home. But yeah, what do you think?
I think one of the first thing we need to look at is the parenting skills.
Okay.
All right. Again, I talk about, sadly, kids having kids.
Right.
So you wonder at what values they're, instilling in their children. We look at the role of parents in their kids' lives. Now, you have some parents where the kids, to them, are also earners in the home. Okay? They are also, because of the economics, the economy in the country, they have to be breadwinners. Some of them are breadwinners.
Because can't have single income within
exactly.
the home, yeah.
So they're breadwinners in the home, they're income earners in the home. So you have kids having those challenges, whereby I used to mentor some girls in a school in Aberdeen, and I would ask them what they did for the day. And they'll tell you about when they wake up, what they do, wash the plates, before they go to school, look after the younger kids in the house, get them ready for school, take them to school, come back before they get themselves. So they're doing adult work.
Yeah, what an adult would do.
They're doing adult work. And then, of course, they then go to school, come back, they have to go to the market, come back, cook, and then that's when they want to study. So,
Impossible.
Mentoring them, we had to find a time when they call study time. So that was a big challenge for a lot of them. When do they have study time? And this is where the parenting skills, these are guardians, a lot of them are with guardians. So
mostly taken from maybe
the provinces with a view of bringing them down to educate them, and then they find themselves now, they're either sex slaves or they're nannies, free nanny, free cooks, free house helps, do all the house chores and everything and then they add the schooling. Of course they're going to school, but what kind of a quality education are they having is the issue. So you're looking at the challenges from the parental point of view.
So, yeah.
And then you look at another type of parenting skills where a lot of parents are the nouveau-riche, whereby they're coming to money, they've been disadvantaged as children themselves, and now they have money, they want their children to have the best. And so they want to give their children everything that they didn't have. And I remember when we were growing up, when parents would come to my father and would say, "Doctor, and this became, I've given them everything, and they still," and my dad would say, "That's the problem right there. You're giving everything. They have the PlayStation, the Nintendo, they have money." I remember Lee, some of them will go with dollars to school. My son will be going with his 1,000 leons, and I'm like, they all have phones. They have iPhones, which we don't have. So we're spoiling the child. And the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. And you spare the rod, you spoil the child. So yes, you want to give them everything, but you have to do it.
But certainly there's nothing wrong with providing.
There's nothing wrong,
child.
But it has to be within a context,
earned,
controlled,
maybe, yeah.
earned, and in a certain values.
Yes, yeah.
Also, you have parents. Unfortunately, a lot of us have to go to work. Right. Now you have working parents. Daddy works, mommy works. When we were growing up, mommy was home, looking after the child, monitoring, supervising. So the kids were under 24 hours supervision. Now both parents go to work. They leave the child with a nanny or the houseboy. They don't know what's going on. They have a TV which they watch DSTV, or they're watching C's, or they're watching what so-called kiddie movies. I call them so-called kiddie movies because some of them are not kiddie movies. Okay. They pretend to be cartoons, but they're not when you look at the context. So there's no supervision with what they watch, when they watch, how early they go to bed. So parents are at a disadvantage there in that they're not able to monitor their children at home all the time. So there are many other issues when it comes to parenting. But then you also look at the physical side, that the challenges adolescents. Now they're coming to adolescents, suddenly their body is changing. Okay, the young girl is having breasts. Some of them have big breasts. They're looking at it. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, where's this coming from? They have pubic hair. Oh my gosh, I didn't have pubic hair. Now I have pubic hair. Suddenly one day they see blood. They don't know where the blood is coming from.
The information is not there.
So the information is not there. And how many of our parents talk to us?
None.
Tell us what is going on with our bodies. And then we go to school, and then we have our peers, and we start talking with our peers.
That's how we get the information.
And that's
wrong.
how they get the wrong information.
Yeah.
Talking to our peers, and they're telling you what's happening in their home. Maybe not the right thing, because every household is different in the setup.
Right. Right.
So there are changes that are going through their bodies. I mean, they're having pimples on their faces. They now become very conscious of their body.
Bodies,
Maybe they're obese. They put on a lot of weight, and they become conscious of who they are. They see, of course, there's a lot now. The internet is teaching us about fashion and stuff like that. All this fashion around us, they want to, imitate all of what is trendy, so-called trendy. So the physical changes, then also dealing with behavioral changes. Going to school, I mean, in school, peer pressure. How do you stay focused
and be your own person,
not being influenced by? But there again, this is the importance of parenting.
And having that information at home.
At home. Satisfy mind. Because I see a lot of kids who are influenced by just very little money. Having a satisfied mind. When we were growing up, again, I go back to the sexual issue where you see a lot of young girls are coerced by very little money, by, a cell phone. Where is the upbringing where you don't talk to strangers, you don't take money from strangers, you don't take food from strangers, because a lot of them are drugged with drinks or food. So those things, in fact, simple things like when you're crossing the road, you see how the kids cross the road now, bam, and they go across the road.
You have to look left, right.
Look left, look right, look left again before you cross. All these issues are not being dealt with in schools. Of course, the mental health issues which you're going to talk about, so there are a lot of challenges. The media, the internet, and the WhatsApp, information out there.
Certainly you've highlighted, economic with regards to poverty.
Yes.
And, young girls in our country are often faced with risks that we're talking about when it comes to sexual health and reproductive health during adolescence, partly because of poverty. Because if the girls in a home where the parents can't provide, certainly they become part of, the income earners, as you've said. So that's definitely a very important part of the challenges when it comes to young girls in our country. But I just started saying it again, but the risks that these challenges also pose. Now, not only in general, but to the reproductive health and future. Which risks would you be thinking of when it comes to that?
Well, the first thing, as the statistics speaks for themselves, is the teenage pregnancy.
Right.
And with teenage pregnancy goes a whole lot of complications. They have complicated births. They have, of course, the unsafe abortion if they want to try to get rid of the pregnancy. Infertility, because there's a high infection rate.
Right. Leading to pelvic inflammatory.
I was just listening to the statistics from the Rainbow Center, where so far this year, 2,600 and I think 60 cases, 1,800 and something of them have STIs. We see them all the time. So the sexually transmitted infections leads to infertility.
And they're usually recurrent and untreated.
Because some of them, when they come to us in the Rainbow Centers, is purulent, infection, which they've probably had for a long time. So as adulthood, when they get into adulthood now and they're married, they want to have babies, then they have a problem. Then the problem of having a childless marriage, then the problem of, the relationship, it's far-reaching. So the reproductive, of course, death is one of
when it comes to maternal
mortality.
Exactly.
They try to have an unsafe abortion, hemorrhaging, They have obstructed labor because the pelvises are small.
Obstetric, fistulas as well.
Little fistulas because they've tried to have this baby up. The access to healthcare too is another challenging issue that they face. You have parents who would hide their kids at home because they don't want during the pregnancy because they don't want
stigma.
They don't want the neighbors to know, or they try to get rid of the pregnancy and then they don't do it in a safe environment, and the child ends up either having an infection, having to go to theater, losing their lives, or they have to do a hysterectomy. That means they become childless for the rest of their lives. So reproductive health complications are far-reaching when it comes to the adolescents. Also, when you look at, and this takes us back to the problems where, when we look at the stats now, we have to start facing some kind of reality. Now, this is where the educational system is failing our adolescents, because the two-shift system creates a short school time, so they have to eliminate certain important topics that needs to be addressed in school.
Yes, sexual health.
They used to have family life education.
We had that, right? Yeah, we had that.
They used to have that in schools. And that taboo of not talking about sex and sexuality and, sex education.
Sex education,
has to be a thing of the past. Now we have to realize, looking at the stats, by the age of 15 they've had sex
already.
Yeah. So talk about it.
Yeah.
Introduce it to your child. Tell them about it. Tell them the bad parts about it, and tell them you can wait. But you need to have the conversation with your child. If you do not have the conversation with your child at home, somebody is going to have the conversation in school, in the community, and it will be the wrong information.
We live in a country where certain things are taboo.
Yes, when
they
it comes
can't
to
be talked about. I think it's one of the aims of doing a show like this, where let's talk about it. If the information is out there, what you want to do is give these girls the right information at the right time, so they're in a better place to make informed choices. So, because if they don't have it, then what's the point? They're just going to do what person A or B says. So having the information out there, we all have the internet, but quite honestly, even with the internet, right, you've been saying like certain people come with questions, you're like, you're educated, really? You went to school? Like the what should I say, the understanding is also not there. So creating these forums where people are, they have the freedom to ask the questions they want to ask and have the right information. I think that's what we're trying to achieve here. For sure, it starts at home. So really, parents have to step up as long as you have adolescent children within you. I know we're focusing on girls, but obviously it goes for boys as well. It's very important
because we're talking changes.
Of course, they too go through changes. It's important that we have information. If we don't have, that's why it's important that we come to the hospital and talk to our doctors, where they can provide that kind of guidance on how to go about it. But that's very important. But we've just actually started talking about it. We've talked about the risks. Now, how can we mitigate these risks? Like, what can we do to help as healthcare practitioners, as parents? Like, what exactly can we do in terms of reducing the risks these young girls face within our society?
I think as you've divided it, let's take the home first of all. In the home, there has to be a conversation. When a young girl is going through puberty, it is a change in their whole life. It's important. Periods are coming, breasts are coming, pubic hair is coming, mood swings are coming, tempers are coming. Sadly, a lot of parents don't even realize that these are issues that need to be addressed. So how do we increase our parents' skills? And I think this is where the churches, I tell them, they have a role. Because they have religious bodies where they have women's groups where they can talk to women about issues like this. We have the CTAs, they call them the Parent Teachers Association,
Okay.
where you have a group of parents where you can educate them. So I think even at the CTAs, there needs to be an allocated time of just an educative period
Yeah.
in all the CTAs where they talk to parents about issues. And with each meeting, different issues can be dealt with so that their eyes are open too. Because I know I've been privileged to do that in a couple of, we used to call them Parent Teachers Association, but now they say it's a community, which you know, embraces, you know, everybody. So, I mean, and at those meetings, the parents can be educated. Okay, and also yes, so the first step is the parent at home. Okay, and then from the parents, where do they go? They go to school. So the next place is the school. Now, are the teachers equipped with the skills and the knowledge?
Yeah.
And this is where guardians, counselors in schools come in, and they're going to be important. Where a child who doesn't have an information and hasn't had it at home
will be able to access
will access it in school from the right person, not from her peers. And that guardian counselors in the school should also be well informed. So I think that's the role of the school. The role of the community, there are lots of, I mean, the church community, the mosque community, the elders within those communities, the traditional birth attendants. And for us as health practitioners, we should use every opportunity that presents to us when an adolescent comes in front of us to chat with them.
Right.
I always talk to my young ones. And in fact, you talk beyond the point of challenging them. Also, I mean, you know, and sometimes you become so involved in their lives.
Yeah.
And you know, I tell them that when they're graduating, I always tease them that I'm going to have that steel bra that I'm going to, you know, wear, that I'm going to be at the graduation, no matter where they are in the world. Yeah. And I remember my mentees, I used to mentor some young girls. They call themselves the Girls with the Future. I don't know if they're listening. But they're now all in secondary school. We started when they were in class 4, class 5.
Oh, that's about time.
And they're all of them now in secondary school. And I used to tell them that when they go to university, wherever in the world, wherever they are in the world, I'll be there when they're graduating. You know, so we have to be mentors, to mentor the young ones. And particularly us who are female professionals, if we're targeting
serve as some sort of example.
The young girls.
Right.
Because we now, in fact, the group I was mentoring was how do you stay focused in school, despite all the housework, despite all the challenges you're facing, despite the fact that you have...
Drown out the noise.
Yes, drown out the noise and stay focused.
Right.
And I used to tell them, look at it as a tunnel, and there's a bright light at the end of the tunnel. And no matter what the darkness you go through, there is light at the end of the tunnel for you to succeed and to be someone in your life. So for us as health professionals, we have a big role to play because they come to us.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to that, and we applaud the work that you and your team do at the Rainbow Center, especially when it comes to adolescent health or even in general health of women in Sierra Leone. So we applaud you for that, Dr.
Thank you.
So now we're going to switch gears a bit and come to Dr. Conte. Dr. Conte is like I said, is the medical superintendent at Kinghamman Road Hospital. She's also
child and adolescent mental health specialist.
Exactly, child and adolescent mental health specialist.
Yeah.
So too often we equate mental health with adulthood. We neglect the fact that young people also can suffer from mental diseases, and obviously that makes these conditions go undetected and untreated. Yeah. So tell us in simple terms, what is adolescent mental health?
So adolescent mental health is a state of well-being wherein the adolescents, they realize their abilities, that they can do they can do certain things. Then also they can be able to cope with the stresses of life, and they can make positive impact in the community. by doing, their work fruitfully, and then they can able to make impact in every aspect of their community. So that's basically
what it is.
Mental health in general. These adolescents, are most of the conditions, mental health conditions starts. Half of them starts from adolescent stage. So if they go undetected, the longer you suffer from the condition, the more difficult it becomes to treat,
right.
and you see complications of these conditions.
Right.
So if an adolescent has anxiety or depression during the adolescence period, left undetected, you see series of badge of conditions in their adulthood. So it is important that we catch them young. When they're young, when they start, you get them. This misconception is something we need to change. That mental health is just
with adults.
For adults, and then it's mad people.
Okay, that's true.
Mental health
That's true.
or psychiatric conditions are not just limited to mad or schizophrenia.
Yeah.
We have a whole lot of emotional conditions that people do suffer from, that they will go undetected. You only see the consequences of such in the society as you interact with these people.
So that basically leads me to my next question. Why is it important in this society? When we're talking about adolescent mental health, how exactly, why is it important in our society?
In Sierra Leone, we are talking about Sierra Leone.
Right.
Let's look at all the difficult conditions that we've been faced with, starting from the war.
Right.
Dr. BC was going back to the home. Yes, these kids are coming from homes where parents were involved in this, the war, and they were not, counseled, or they didn't have this mental health support, psychological support.
Right.
These parents, now they are adults, they have their kids. How will they attend to the needs of the kids when they themselves are suffering from mental health conditions?
Right.
A mother will be depressed. All they will do, they just hit the kid here and there. You come with your question, they will just hit you, go over there, because they are also dealing with issues that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
So I see why we are having complications of, mental, we are having serious complications. And like you rightly said, the fabric, the social fabric, it's breaking because we've not addressed the mental issues back then during the rebel war. Some years back, we had the Ebola outbreak, and so many women and children were involved in it. They were actively involved. I did a study sometime in 2017 after the Ebola at the WAF in the eastern parts of Freetown. Among adolescents, you see I had very high rates of depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorders among these adolescents.
And previously undetected. And not on any particular treatment.
So now, good thing we are having such conversations, and then there are trainings around some, they're going on about mental health, the awareness is going on, but we need to do more.
Yeah, especially when it comes to stigmatization in our society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, the moment you say mental health, they say this person is mad, this person should go to Kisi.
Yeah.
Mental health conditions, mental health is an integrative condition. You treat them in the hospitals now. The services should be integrated. You walk in to any facility, just like you're going for malaria treatment or hypertension. You go for mental health mental health in the facilities as well.
Right.
You don't have to isolate them anymore. Yeah. That's how the stigma, that's why, you know, in Africa, especially in Sierra Leone, we have very high rates of mental health condition. Wow. Because the moment you talk about, you know, say this person has mental health condition, you say, you should go to Kisi. and Kisi has been branded as Chrisman Us.
Yeah.
You know, so these are the issues. The society has not been, you know, we've not been better, we've not been equipped to handle the disasters that we had over the past year, and in fact that we are still facing. The mudslide recently happened. How many interventions, or, you know,
like counseling services or something like that?
Because it's not a one-off thing. It should be an ongoing process. Yeah. You follow these kids, you know, you follow them through. Exactly. In the schools, you have to address issues, get counselors, like you were saying, get counselors, mental health experts in the schools, wherein they will handle such conditions. But you see a kid with poor grades, you say, this speaking, not a study.
You don't know what's happening in the home.
You don't know what is going on with the child. So in handling or dealing with adolescents, you have to treat them holistically. You look at the medical perspective, you go to the mental health and the social. That's where the home comes in. You need to go back to the home. That's why we should have social workers. In advanced countries, they have social workers who work with these kids, go to the homes, you know, check all the players around these kids, see where the problem is
where
coming
the lapses
from.
are. Yeah.
So I think in situations like this, with the breakdown of the educational system and all, that should be one of the funds they should use. Get mental health in, you know, services in every schools, not just private schools, the public schools where the kids, the less, you know, privileged kids are.
That's true. Thank you so much, Dr. Conte. I think this has been a very fruitful discussion. I do appreciate Dr. Conte coming on and Dr. Olabisi Ko coming on as well. So now we know, I think we're better equipped. I hope parents out there are better equipped when it comes to dealing with adolescents. I think we've only scratched the surface.
Yeah,
quite honestly, this is not even...
One thing I saw here, I wanted Doc to just enlighten, is parents, how can they identify that their kids are having mental health issues? I mean, what are the signs?
Not only like the mood changes.
Because exactly. If you know your kids, one thing you said earlier, they are, you know, parents, we are too busy. We are too busy chasing after money that we don't even have time to talk to our kids. So if you spend time, you will know the temperament of your kid. You need to check what is going on. A kid will just start, you know, they can't concentrate on one activity. That is, you know, if you take them to the hospital, maybe that child is suffering from attention deficiency, hyperactivity disorder, which is a mental health condition.
Not just acting out.
Just acting out. Yeah. And conduct disorders. If your kid, they say they are throwing tantrums, don't allow these tantrums to go unchecked. You have to correct them there and then, because the moment they start to go to conduct disorder, at the end of the day, in adolescent years, we'll see delinquent kids.
Right.
So we say now they are arresting in kids are raping.
You don't know what's happened before.
They started this behavior way back in their childhood stage, and they were not checked. Yeah. And even adolescents, if your adolescent is acting out or having poor conduct, you have to check that child.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, I really do, again, appreciate both of you coming on. I think, like I've said, we've only scratched the surface. This might be, we might have to invite both of you again so that we can talk more about adolescent health. But definitely, thank you, Dr. Conte. Thank you, Dr. Olabisi Ko. Thank you, viewers, for inviting us into your this evening. We appreciate you tuning in and watching The Woman's Place. We hope it's been educative. We hope you'll be able to join us next week as we discuss another issue affecting women and girls in Sierra Leone. On behalf of the team here, I wish you a happy and a pleasant weekend.
AYV Television.